No. Come on, where is it?
Dave, it's your Idaho Central app here. Any chance you're missing a debit card? Let's get that taken care of for you. With ICCU's card control, you can turn any card off with the tap of your finger.
You've got it.
And back on again. Out, 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 out. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket.
Pow day.
Dude, let's go.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Bronco Nation News Live from BroncoNationNews.com is presented by RowPaint.com, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. All Bronco Nation news broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer to support an NIL collective. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, how we doing? Happy Thursday. Oh, what a treat. A double dose of Mike Prater on Bronco Nation News Live. He's filling in for Johnny Ballgame today. We got Prater on Monday. We get Prater today on a Jackson's Thursday. He's there in the RowPaint.com studios downtown. Got that RowPaint.com hat on. They're, of course, our title sponsor, Andy Rowe and Company. Reach out to me. I can connect you directly with Andy and his team. If all your painting needs, those concrete coatings, interior, exterior painting, we appreciate our title sponsor, Andy Rowe and RowPaint.com. And this is a Jackson's Thursday, so I know Prater's probably already got his plans to get out to Roaring Springs this weekend. You can save $8 on your ticket, Prater. If you go over to Jackson's or Extra Mile, buy 2 Coca-Cola products, and you get to save $8. And you can do that up to 4 times, $32 in savings from our friends over at Jackson's at Roaring Springs. But, Mike, another beautiful day. It's Thursday. We had a overtime hockey game last night. We got the NBA Finals starting tonight. College Softball World Series is going on. A lot going on in the sports world. Boise State basketball in the news. We're talking football as well. Barely a month. I made Prater's flight reservation for Media Days. Barely a month away from Mountain West Media Days. So a lot going on even on June 5th here. How you doing?
Yeah, who said this is a slow time of year in sports? Holy cow, that was a whole bunch of stuff you got going on right there. So very much excited for this time of year. So we're going to Vegas, baby. It's official. We're going to Vegas in a couple of weeks.
We're doing it again. Sounds like we're doing it again. I don't know if I'm out of turn there saying that publicly or not, but apologize if I am. But yeah, we're gonna team up again, hopefully with BNN, KTIK for Mountain West Media Days. And we'll be doing a show from the sports book, shows from the media days there. And I know there's a lot of excitement. The final year in the Mountain West for a lot of these teams. There'll be a lot of storylines down there at media days. But yeah, the flight is booked. Don't have the limo reserved yet. I'll work on that next. But
nice.
We'll be heading down and looking for it. That is July. It's a week later than usual. It's July 17th this year. So that'll be coming up in about a month or so. And one gentleman, Mike, that might be might be down there joining us. Marco Notarainni. I think he's one of the candidates probably to represent this team at Mountain West Media Days. We are going to talk Mike Burns, by the way, a little later in the show. Aginaldo Neto. We've talked about him on this show for months. You've talked about him on your show for months. Boise State has been trying to lock him in and finally did. And it's funny because I know, I guess Leon had said on your show they were done, but I had never heard that. I had heard, I don't know if he was just being pessimistic or didn't want to get too excited. I don't know, but everybody that I had talked to kept saying all along it was going to happen. They were working on it. It was going to happen. I never heard anyone else say that. So I was so surprised when Leon said that on your show that they were done. We'll talk about him later in the show, but that's a big get. Aginaldo Neto and Mike Burns going to join us at about 9:30.
Yeah, I cannot wait to hear the journey of this whole, basically a year-long recruiting story, and maybe even a little bit longer than that, and involves a couple of different continents and a whole bunch of travel and a whole bunch of patience, because this is what it took. So, yeah, I have a little bone to pick with Leon, and we were going to play that audio yesterday in Idaho Sports Talk where he said we're done, but I figured I'd be nice to Leon and not throw that out there. But, yeah, everything is negotiable and everything is possible in the world of recruiting, and we'll dive into the details. Cannot wait to find out the journey. Like Boise State, the fact that they got that roster just a little bit better, and we'll see how this details work behind this deal. Because Neto, you're right. We've been talking about him for a long time, and I cannot wait to see him. I'm assuming he's not in town yet. Maybe he's in town pretty close, and summer conditioning for those guys starts this week or next week. So
Monday.
Yeah, it's getting serious. It's getting serious. We'll just add one more thing to our summer list of no sports. Basketball season starts for Boise State on Monday.
So we'll talk about the roster and Neto here a little later in the show, and then Mike Burns is going to join us as well. By the way, for Media Days, Robbie Robinson says that both of us should we got to make. You know what? We need to make this happen, Mike Prater. We got to, now that he's legal, we got to find a way to get Ashton Genty into Media Days. Come on over and get him to make appearances on BNN and KTIK somehow in July.
Yeah, training camp will start probably right about the time when we're down there. Maybe he's either going to be coming back from his last couple of days of summer vacation. They get about 2 or 3 weeks, and or he's going to be starting right off the bat. So that's not a bad idea. Pop on over. You're 21 now. Come hang out a circuit with us, my friend.
I think we could get a dinner at Barry's or something after he joins us. We can get something set with the Circa crew over there if we can get Ashton to join us. So
can we get him to pay for it, though? I mean, you've always been very generous in picking up the fancy steak dinner paycheck, and thank you to you and thank you to BNN. But I think in this particular case, we should soak Ashton Genty for the bill.
Well, I agree. I didn't necessarily mean he was going to eat with us, but yeah, we'll have our steak dinner down there. He may be in a different section of the restaurant with the higher ups more than us, but yeah, we can. I need to talk to Derek Stevens about that. Maybe we can do something to get Ashton Genty over there in conjunction with Mountain West Media Days. But yeah, that's coming up next month. That'll be fun. And as I said, Marco Notarainni, we've reached number 2 in our countdown. I'm very curious to hear where you guys had Marco on your list, and we had a very tough debate with Ty Benefield and with Jaden Virgin Morgan and with some of these Marion McCoy, some of these defensive players. And like I said, if you're just going best, maybe the rankings are a little different, Mike Prater. But if you're going most important, once they lost Andrew Simpson and just this middle linebacker position and how much is put on the linebacker in Boise State's defense and the ascension that Marco has made on special teams as a key player at linebacker. And like I said, if Andrew Simpson's there, he's probably 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 on this list. But in our opinion, with the lack of a ton of proven depth at linebacker and losing Andrew Simpson, we gave a slight edge over a Ty Benefield or over some of these other defensive players to a Marco Notarainni. So it's most important. It's not best. We've got Marco Notarainni at number 2 on our list. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. We had him number 6 on our list. We have Ty Benefield number 4 and a whole bunch of offensive guys kind of there in the middle. So I think our 2 lists have been fascinating. Yours at BNN, ours at Idaho Sports Talk. There's been a couple of them that have been very much the same, and there's been a couple of them that have been very much different. So I like that kind of style. We debated pretty hot and heavy too. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that Marco and Ty Benefield are the 2 most important players on this defense. A little bit interchangeable. I can't wait to have this conversation today with Marco in terms of the most important defensive player on this list. I think for us, Ty was about the playmaking ability and the ability to get better at the playmaking ability and have this sexy position. So Marco is unbelievable. And I've said on Idaho Sports Talk that every year I pick my new favorite player on this roster and I kind of follow him from a fanboy perspective all year long. Marco Notarainni is my favorite player on the 2025 football roster based on football, based on the vibe, based on who he is as a person, based on his intelligence. This dude checks a lot of boxes. I cannot wait to have this conversation with you over these next 15 minutes.
It's Keaton says, I agree with Notriani at number 2. Besides the receiver, I'm most concerned with linebacker depth. Such an important position in the run game. By the way, AP saying he expected Andrew Simpson to do better than UNC. Guess the money was more important than winning and getting yourself out there for the next level.
What's wrong with UNC going to play football for Bill Belichick in the ACC? That's a pretty good landing spot, dude. Come on, man. Don't be that bitter. Don't be that guy.
And you're going to get plenty of, with the whole Bill Belichick thing, you're going to get plenty of games on TV and plenty of talk over the social media and all the TV channels and everything else. So, yeah, it's Keaton coming back.
Yeah, it's a great experience, and it might even, if Andrew Simpson is loving football and wants to play in the NFL, are you kidding me? I thought it was a spectacular landing spot. So that's just bitter feelings right there.
I agree, and as someone commented, always the positive take from our man AP. So as he has for every article in this series, Nathan Carroll kind of dove into the numbers and looked at the good, the bad, and everything, and he's done that for all 25 of these guys, or I guess 24 to this point. So if you're wanting to kind of read up on all these players in the top 25, but today's topic, Marco Notarainni, you can do that at BroncoNationNews.com. And again, I know some people may think this is a little high for him, but just the importance at linebacker and the importance of the lack of depth at linebacker is certainly why we have him. But Nathan calls him a throwback story. His development and where he got to this point, he said it's a throwback story. Obviously, coming out of Torrey Pines High School in San Diego, was a high school teammate with Matt Lauder. Wasn't that big of a recruit coming out of high school. Only had one Power 5 offer. That was Oregon State at the time. Was the but kind of really worked his way up and was only 195 pounds. Mike Prater coming out of high school there as a linebacker, and he played just one defensive snap as a true freshman in 2021 and had only 9 snaps in 2022 before suffering a season-ending injury. So he's coming back in 2023 after being hurt, after only playing 10 snaps the last 2 years, and he worked his way into the rotation in 2023, started 5 games, but still was dealing with injuries and things and only had 394 snaps after an encouraging start to the season. But last year, you have Andrew Simpson coming off that All-Mountain West season, and he was getting all the buzz and everything. And there's, Notriani kind of working his way into the mix there, Mike Prater, in terms of getting more playing time. And, it really was impressive what he did. He finished first team All-Mountain West. Again, they can only nominate one, I believe, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say on this, but I mean, Marco Notarainni was the first team All-Mountain West linebacker, not Andrew Simpson last year, which surprised some people, but 60 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, and, put together a very solid season. I got some more in-depth kind of PFF numbers I can get to, but overall, Marco Notarainni, just your thoughts on what he did last season. We mentioned special teams. I think after the Oregon game, he kind of went to some of the coaches and said, put me on special teams. We got to get this improved. But first team All-Mountain West linebacker, no, it wasn't Andrew Simpson last year. It was Marco Notarainni.
Yeah, and that's probably the exact reason why you got him at number 2 on your most important player list. And the depth part becomes a factor too. I don't think Chase Martin and Clay Martineau are they're unproven. They're definitely unproven, but I think that they're okay. I mean, maybe even throw in a little Sincere Brackett, who's been in the program for a little bit, and give you some depth. So, yeah, the depth is kind of scary there, although I think that there's some potential. And Marco's kind of out there on an island in the middle of this defense by himself as the big returning guy. The most important number, and those were all good numbers you just threw out there, BJ, but the most important number for me was the 14. The fact that he got to play every single game, the fact that he got healthy. You look at the career trajectory, 2 games, 9 games, 14 games. This guy is trying to stay healthy and get things done. I wish, and let's talk about this throughout this conversation, I wish it could be just a little bit more productive in the playmaking department. And this is a big issue with the entire defense in terms of takeaways. He's still never had, in 3 years at Boise State, he's still never had an interception. Last year, he didn't even have any kind of forced fumbles. So this guy, I'd like for him to be a little bit more of a playmaker, a little bit more physical, getting out there and beating up some people. He's a methodical player. He's an athletic player. He can roam and be very athletic in terms of what he does. So kind of like he is off the field. Very smart and very analytical. That's the way he plays football. I wouldn't mind to see just a little bit more meanness, nastiness, and dirt dog in him, and a little bit more playmaking ability. But the fact that we saw him last year be so successful, so productive, and healthy, that was very encouraging for the 2025 season.
And while we're talking, somewhat negative in terms of no lack of, playmaking plays that this team struggled with last year, he also was not a great tackler at times, which was a problem with this team. According to the Pro Football Focus numbers in Nathan's article, he finished with an 18.8% missed tackle rate, which is well below the national average of 13.7% for linebackers. But you know what? He did have some positive numbers as well. Run defense, he was very strong. 81.1 run defense grade. It was the highest of any player on the team last year, and it was also the top 40 in terms of all linebackers in the country. And so best, according to Pro Football Focus, the best player on Boise State's team against the run last year was Marco Notarainni. As a pass rusher, 14 pressures and 3.5 sacks on just 71 pass rushing snaps. And when he was in coverage, he was targeted 8 times and allowed 5 catches on the 8 targets. But he said he shows strong coverage instincts, is quick to diagnose passing plays and get into his drop. He talked about his weight, Mike. He's up to 240 pounds now in terms of where he's at weight-wise. And he said he's a strong season away from being an NFL draft pick. I'm not sure I'm quite ready to go there, but if Marco Notarainni were to have a solid season as a starting linebacker for a team that's got a chance to go to the playoff, and if he's a first-team all-conference player again, Nathan believes he's got a chance to get drafted into the NFL. He's the only player, by the way, on this year's roster that has taken 30 or more snaps at linebacker. So we talk about the linebacker lack of depth, in terms of at Boise State. He's the only guy with 30 career snaps at linebacker for Boise State. And so you have Jake Ripp, you have Chase Martin, you have Clay Martineau, and these guys obviously are getting a lot of talk and supposed to be ready for their opportunity. He's the only one, Nathan says, that's proven he can play at an all conference level. So he last year, Mike, the numbers say he largely split the reps, as we know, with Simpson. Only one of those two was on the field over 80% of the time last year. And Notriani only played 51% of Boise State's defensive snaps. And so we talk about him being a first-team all-league player, having 60 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss. He was doing that while playing half of Boise State snaps last year. So even if he goes to 75, 80% and you see that same kind of jump, he could be a 100 tackle type guy next year and have, 12, 13, 14, 15 tackles for loss if he stays healthy and plays, at the same percentage level that he did last year. So put up pretty good numbers last year while not even being on the field, barely half the time. And like I said, just his experience is something that Boise State's really going to lean on this year because they don't have a lot of it there in that linebacker room.
Yeah, I think you just painted a really good picture of the one area where, a little bit of a concern with Marco. And again, love the way he plays football, my favorite player on this football team. And he'll probably be the green dot guy and the captain out there on this defense. And again, the analytical guys, the physical aspect of what he brings to the table, the strength. I've never really thought that Marco Notarainni was, the beast, the strength guy. He was more of a, he doesn't have bulging muscles. He doesn't look like he's that intimidating, imposing guy. No offense. He still looks like he might be hanging out at the beach in Torrey Pines a little bit here. I'm not saying that's if he could be a little bit more stronger, a little bit more physical, put a little bit more body armor on him, that's going to help in 2 different ways. You surprised me a little bit with the tackles, with the sack success. You surprised me a little bit with those numbers in terms of how much he participated last year, 50%. That number definitely needs to go up to about 80%. And he needs to be able to stay healthy and on the field for every single one of those games. So it'll be interesting to see Marco when he show up again in a couple of weeks. If he shows up at media days, if he's changed that body a little bit, I'd like to see a little bit more body armor. I'd like to see a little bit more muscle and a little bit more physical intimidation on him, because if he brings a little bit more physicality to this position, then come on, guys, a linebacker like Marco Notarainni needs to be a physical player. Right now, I think he's more of an analytical player, and that's okay. Just bring a little bit more touch physicality, and I think we got a complete football player in Marco Notarainni.
And just to clarify, you said I kind of painted the picture. Nathan Carroll painted the picture for us.
Yeah.
Read that at BroncoNationNews.com. He has access to all those numbers. And things that I don't know what half of them mean sometimes. But you can go read all of that at BroncoNationNews.com. I know. Let's see here. No shot he gets drafted. Doesn't have the athleticism the NFL wants for a linebacker. Rom's World says there's no chance in bleep. He's this high on the most important list. Again, it's not best player, it's most important. And you just heard that no other linebacker on the roster has played 30 career snaps. I mean, if he were to go down with some sort of injury, knock on wood, I mean, what's that linebacker room look like, Mike Prater?
Yeah, it's not good. They're going to come and get you and play you at middle linebacker, because the other three we talked about, I used the word potential, and it's not any better than that right now in terms of Martineau and Martin and Rip. That lots of potential. At one point, they took Rip out of the linebacker room and put him down on the defensive line. They had to bring him back. I'm still not sure that experiment's not over. We'll have to see how that plays out when we get access to Spencer Danielson and get back into camp late in July. But I think, you can debate whether he's the number 2 most important. Like I said, we had him number 6. He's still very high. This is 109 players on this football team right now, and we're talking about the top 5, top 6 players. Marco Notarainni, mostly because of what you just said, the lack of depth is very, very important on this team. He's not the best by any means. Let's wait and see what he does this football season. He doesn't have to go out there and be the intimidating middle linebacker that they get in the NFL. But if, like I said, back to what I said, if he can be more physical, then I think he's going to better his chances. He'll be a better football player at Boise State, and he'll give himself a chance. He's going to get a chance to play in the NFL. The draft pick, we'll see how this season plays out.
Skyship was asking about Sterling Lane, the Arizona transfer. Is he going to play any linebacker or only edge? Wonder if Coach Chinander moves him around a bunch. What do you make of Sterling Lane figuring in here?
As far as we know, and that's very little right now. He's here as an edge player, and that doesn't mean they're not interchangeable and mix and match. We'll see how it plays. An edge can kind of be this quasi little outside linebacker position. We know that, so we'll see what they experiment. But right now, based on everything Boise State's saying and based on everything we've been seeing and heard, he's an edge player, and they need edge players too. There's Jaden Virgin Morgan's going to be a beast. Max Steege on the other side of the defensive end. We'll see how that plays out, but they're going to need some help on the edge. But Sterling Lane, the Arizona transfer, is supposed to be a big factor of this football team this fall. We'll see how it plays out, but right now I would say he's an edge.
Tyree says, first team all Mountain West, folks. Boise says, I think people forget how great Marco is when he's healthy out there. He'll be very important with Simpson gone. I think Jake Ripp will be a dog this season as well. BSU Bill saying his leadership is the most important thing he brings to the defense.
Yep.
He's going to be the QB of the defense. It's Keaton says he's a textbook BSU middle linebacker. Wimpy, Weaver, Noah, etc. He kind of fits into that mold. So Marco Notarainni coming in at number 2 on our list of the 25 most important players. Any final thoughts on Marco before we move on, Mike? He's obviously, as we said, very important piece. Going to be right there in the middle of the defense, and if he stays healthy, should be in line for a monster season. But if he doesn't, it's a little scary to think about this linebacker group. But obviously, Marco, he won a scholar award with the business school, or as well, top 10 scholar for the university. So he's a very, on the academic side, just a very smart person and a very smart football player as well. And we mentioned his leadership, and he just seems like one of those, not just textbook Boise State middle linebacker, but textbook Boise State players. Comes in under-recruited and don't know much about him. He's small, don't expect much of him. And a couple years later, he's a first-team All-Mountain West player and a key to the team. Yeah, that's very well said. I love that, and I love the comps to some of those past linebackers of the past where, they're not exactly intimidating, the wimpy style of linebacker. I miss that dude. That dude brought a little physicality to the football field, Wimpy did, and that's kind of what I want to see with Marco. So, again, I think he checks all the boxes. We'll be keeping a close eye on his body. We'll be keeping a close eye on if he can change that a little bit more physical, and then just get out there on the football field and be a little bit more physical. I'd like to see him beat up some people out there as opposed to just doing it analytically. So, again, I can't wait to see. There's a lot of potential here. Marco Notarainni is really, really good. The cool thing here is he's got a chance to be even better. We'll see how it plays over this course of this season. All right, Marco Notarainni comes in at number 2 on our list of the Boise State most important players list. We'll do number 1 tomorrow with Jay Tuss. Want to talk a little basketball, get Mike's take on this roster, and Mike Burns going to join us here in a couple minutes as well. But first, a 30-second break here to thank our sponsors at Bronco Nation News. Back in 30 seconds.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RovePaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, the Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.
Heard Mike Prater say something on Idaho Sports Talk yesterday that I'm not sure I've ever heard in the summer. Mike Prater was liking the basketball roster, liking what Leon Rice did over the summer. Mike Prater is drinking the Kool-Aid, is all in on that Sweet 16 appearance this year. Aginaldo Neto added to the roster yesterday, Mike, and I'm fascinated, looking forward to hearing more about this from Mike Burns. It was a very interesting recruitment, a lot going on. He was kind of my understanding was early on was kind of their only, they locked it down. He was going to be the only option for him. And then once they brought him over for that last year here in, down in Arizona, some other schools starting to get involved and the agents get involved and money gets involved. And it ended up being not nearly as easy as they thought to hang on to him. And there was times where they thought they'd get him, wouldn't get him. But he's 6'1", 185 pounds, played for the NBA Academy, Africa, the Angola national team, and played in the African Basketball League and won a championship there last year. And he's a guy that they think has a chance to come in right away as the backup point guard and get some immediate minutes. It sounds like we'll hear from Mike Burns, but certainly, a year from now could be maybe the future, the starting point guard. I mean, they really like this kid, and it's hard to project now with NIL and transfer portal and everything else who's going to be here when, but it seems like they really like this kid, obviously, with the amount of work that they put in, and Mike Burns traveling over, out of the country to go see him play. And this has been an 18-month recruitment, minimum in the process here. But they got him in the fold, and it adds to what has been a really nice, last 2 months or so here for the basketball team.
I really do. And I wasn't just saying this because Leon and I are buddies now, but I really truly believe he's done a fantastic job this offseason rebuilding this roster. I think it's the most, I don't want to say excited because I'm not going to get excited about basketball in June, but
the Prater we know and love.
Exactly. But in terms of the way this roster was built this offseason and the holes that they filled, everything from, replacing Tyson Degenhart, replacing the point guard, replacing and going out and getting a big man that, is got a pretty damn good pedigree with the local flavor. He checks a lot of boxes, and Drew Fielder. I really like this roster, and I really like what Burns and Leon Rice said at the BNN function at Western Collective the other day. Burns was talking defense. Of course, that's exactly what he talks about, and Leon was making fun of him, saying, hey, come on, Burns, we don't talk defense in May, we talk offense. And this team is going to shoot a lot of three-pointers this year. So I see a lot of excitement. I see a lot of potential. I see a lot of fun on this roster. I think they've checked all the boxes. They've got I don't think there's any weaknesses on this roster when it comes to a Mountain West roster, a Boise State roster, a Leon Rice roster in June. We'll see how they develop. We'll see how much they get better, and you combine it with the schedule that they put together. I think it's on paper to be a pretty exciting basketball season. So once again, Leon Rice has won the offseason. Once again, Leon Rice has given us reason to be excited going into a new basketball season.
And I just can't. I keep going back to how quickly. I mean, there was a lot of you're losing Tyson Degenhart, you're losing, Alvaro Cardenas, Omar Stanley. There was how are you going to replace those guys? And literally within 2 weeks of the season being over, they had added the starting point guard from UCLA and the starting center from Georgetown. I mean, Boise State basketball adding 2 Power 5 starters. I said this, Mike, and I know you can phrase things different ways, semantics, whatever, but I mean, starters at the Power 5 level transferring down to Boise State. Those on paper, Drew Fielder and Andrews are the 2 most accomplished transfers they've ever added. I mean, I don't know if they're going to end up being the best here at Boise State, but, Abu Kijab had averaged 1.5 points at Oregon, and Chibuzo Abo had averaged 2 points at Texas Tech. Usually if they're getting Power 5 transfers, it's guys that aren't happy with their role, and they say, okay, we can bring them in and turn them into something. And Emmanuel Acott coming from Arizona. But they got accomplished, proven starters. I mean, guys that have averaged, points, rebounds, have played. I've had success at the Power 5 level. 2 of them coming down to play at Boise State, plus all the other pieces they've added with the freshmen and some of the other pieces they brought in. And then you bring the core back that you have. I mean, again, we're not calling this a super team. We're not doing whatever. But, I mean, in terms of competing in the Mountain West and at this level. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to be excited about this roster.
I think the one thing that makes a big difference here, and I wish I knew the details. I know you wish you knew the details. We know some of them, but this wouldn't happen without the NIL. This wouldn't happen without cash. And whether it's coming from the collective, whether it's coming from boosters, whether it's coming from Leon Rice going out and chasing down a certain amount of cash. You know, when I spent those couple of days with Leon for the column that I did for BNN, in terms of the NIL, we had a really serious conversation about NIL. He wouldn't give me a lot of details other than they do have a budget of over $1 million. And I would suspect at this point, that might even be pushing 1.5 if you throw Neto in there. He didn't come cheap. I have no idea how much he cost. But I guarantee you, that a guy like that's looking for a couple $100,000 just to start, and we'll see how it plays out. So maybe that NIL budget, BJ, is pushing $1.5 million. And when you give Leon Rice $1.5 million, you can go out and buy players like Dylan Andrews. You can go out and buy players like Drew Fielder, and that's making all the difference in the world. So Leon Rice and his staff have always been good grinders, and they've always done nice things with this roster. But I think the difference here and why we're maybe more excited is because he's got cash to go out. He's got leverage to go out and get these players. And I think that's huge. So somebody out there is raising significant cash for the basketball team alone. And I think that's a story that probably hasn't been told enough.
Well, we'll ask Mike Burns about that. Mike Burns joins us here on Bronco Nation News. Mike, we appreciate you, as always, for hopping on with us here. Another exciting piece yesterday, and we're excited to talk about the roster and Mr. Neto with you. How you doing, sir?
Good to see you guys this morning. I've been running around down here in Phoenix and getting things straightened away down here for my father, and happy to talk to you. I actually had a chance to see Neto down here yesterday, so he'll be in Boise this weekend. We're looking forward to getting him on board.
Well, I know we only got 10, 15 minutes with you here, but it's quite the story with Aginaldo Neto getting him Boise State. I know this goes back a long ways with you and recruiting him, and a lot of airplane miles and travel. And in the Cliff Notes version, how can you tell us when you first heard about this young man and how you ended up getting him to sign yesterday with Boise State?
Well, it goes back a year, actually, because he was at the NBA Academy in Dakar, Senegal, and Roland Houston, who runs that academy, is a friend of mine, and I was actually planning last April to go to Senegal to see Neto and some other players due to some of the recruiting responsibilities that we had in the portal last spring. I had to cancel that trip, so I never got to see him last April. Roberto Bergeson got to see him at the NBA Academy games in August, and then David Moat saw him the following week in Rock Hill, South Carolina, playing AAU. And so everything that we'd heard about him and seen of him on video prior to seeing him in person kind of validated the caliber of player that he was and the impact that he could have. So at that point, the recruiting hunt was on. And that took me to Johannesburg, South Africa, to the FIBA African Championships last fall. And so I got to see him down there in person. And at that point, we knew that he was somebody we wanted to get in the program. And so we brought him over for a visit. And then from there, he went from the NBA Academy in Senegal to Bella Vista Prep down here in Phoenix. And, the basketball world's a small world. And the guy that runs Bella Vista Prep is Matt Gordon, somebody I've known for 30 years. So he's a good friend. We knew he'd be in good hands there. And all of those things worked in our favor. And lo and behold, the young man is a Bronco. But his journey is a long one.
Yeah. And what was it? I mean, maybe he's just that good of a player, but I mean, there's just so many players in the U.S. and you guys have done international recruiting, but not, at some of the levels, some of these programs, but just to spend the time and effort to go over there and to do all the stuff you're talking about and the money for the visit to bring him over. Like what was it about him, I guess, that you just decided that was worth your time and effort than just some other, point guard down in the LA area or something?
Well, I mean, it's, I heard you guys talking before I came on about some of the transfers we have and with us, and this goes back to the first day I walked into the offices at Boise State, and I've known Leon for a long, long time. But one of the things he's always talked about in recruiting is that we get, OKGs, our kind of guys. And that's a Coach Pete term from way back in Bronco football lore. But that's what we've tried to do. And so we can get players in a lot of places, but we have to get the right people as well as the right players. And so sometimes that will take us to Johannesburg, South Africa to get that done. Because as good a player as Nato is, he's an even better, much better young man. And his story's inspiring, not just, to us, but to the people on that continent. And he's a great kid. And I think it's because of those things. You can see actual talent, but trying to measure intangibles sometimes is really difficult. So if you get in the position where you feel you have, a really, really good kid in addition to a good player, you have to capitalize. And
you told me
we've been able to do that.
You mentioned the inspiring part. You told me, like, when he goes to games over there, there's like people asking for his autograph and stuff. Like he's a big deal over there, and this is going to be a big deal to have him come and play in the States here.
Oh, no question. I mean, in Angola, his home country, and specifically Luanda, where he's from. I mean, it's a huge city, but he is a celebrity there, and what he does in the basketball realm matters a great deal to those people, and that heritage and his home and his country and that lineage matters a great deal to NATO as well. So. Yeah, it's really cool to see that. And he's, they have high hopes for him with their national team moving forward. And so we've got a great responsibility ourselves to help facilitate his success so we can get him back there and doing greater things, and maybe even get him doing some incredible things professionally here in the States.
Coach, you talked about his intangibles. You talked about his city, Luanda in Angola there. You said it's a large city. It's like 10 million people. I mean, it's massive. It's beyond massive. So what's his background like? And then I wanted to kind of connect the dots in terms of how he grew up. What kind of situation did he grow up in? And then you talked about the intangibles of being an OKG. What specifically would those intangibles be?
Well, I mean, first of all, we want workers in our program. I mean, it's, we kind of jokingly say that we like to take 2 and 3 stars and turn them into 5 stars. And that speaks to the player development in our basketball program. So we're always looking for guys that fit that mold, guys that have, a certain level of skill or athleticism, talent, toughness that can translate with development to future success. So he fits that criteria. And, it's like I said, there's no perfect science to measuring that. It's just, you see guys play. And so initially that's what brings your attention to them. But when you get to know them and know what makes them tick, know the people around them, find out, about their work ethic, about their drive, about their story, then it really helps you understand the whole picture. And with a lot of these guys, we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. And that usually spells success, not only for them, but for the Broncos.
So give us the scouting report on him as a player then, Mike, and what kind of player is he? What should fans expect? And there's a couple folks in the chat here asking about redshirting. Is the plan for him to kind of be the backup point guard right away? Is he more of a developmental guy? Is he ready to impact it right now? Like give fans the 411 here on where NATO's at.
Well, he's an extremely athletic player, and he's got great defensive instincts, and he is with the Bella Vista team that he played with this summer, they played all the best prep schools, not prep schools, but all the best high schools in the country, essentially. I mean, Link Academy, the Boozers, all those guys. So he's a guy that was a stopper for that team. So his defensive abilities translate to being immediately able to impact the Division I game. And then, he's a very gifted offensive player as well. So he's a freshman, he's young, and with all freshmen, there's a learning curve, but we definitely expect him to make an impact. And, he's got a great situation with Dylan Andrews this year because he gets to work with, play with, compete against on a daily basis, one of the best point guards in the country. So that's only going to expedite his development.
Coach, you've talked about Dylan Andrews and the way he plays defense. You just talked about Neto and the way he plays defense. When you think of a point guard, defense doesn't always come to mind for most of us. For you, it probably does. Why is it important for you to have a defensive-minded point guard?
Well, now if you were talking to Leon Rice, it would be he would probably have a little different perspective.
Yeah, he scolded you last week for talking about defense. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, with point guards specifically, they are the head of the snake defensively. I mean, at the end of the day, they're guarding the other team's best ball handler on most possessions. And because they're guarding that best ball handler, they're going to be in pick and roll coverage and pick and roll situations on most possessions. So their ability to be able to handle those and guard those at a high level is it's incredibly important to your defense and to your team. So, on that end of the floor, it starts there. Now, when I talk about that stuff, these guys are very gifted offensive players and electric with the ball in their hands. So that part will be fun as well, and I mean, at the end of the day, we can't forget that we have huge shoes to fill in that position because the guy that's leaving the program is Alvaro, and obviously his impact and the things he was able to do were significant. So he's the all-time assist leader. So these guys obviously know that, and they've actually, they know Alvaro. So it's a great collaboration within our program.
You think Coach Burns about the day after that game ended against Nebraska in the Crown, and I guess at that point you already had a commitment from Dylan Andrews, I believe. But just from when you guys were looking at putting this roster together and knowing you had to replace Alvaro and knowing you had to replace Tyson and Omar and what you guys hope to keep with the current roster and not lose any of them, and then who you wanted to add. I mean, how do you just look at the last 2 months of what you guys did and the roster you've put together going into next season?
I mean, we're incredibly happy with, player retention first and foremost, and then the additions that we've been able to make. It's one of those things, and I heard you guys talking earlier about how this happens and the resources needed to do it. I mean, the first thing you always have to do is thank Bronco Nation because we would not be able to excel on the basketball court, nor would Spencer and his troops be able to excel on the blue turf if it weren't first and foremost for Bronco Nation and our administration and all their efforts to support everything that we need to do and give us the resources to do it. That being said, we're like I said, we're thrilled with our roster and we've got a great group. Tyson, Alvaro, and Omar are going to be hugely missed, and it's going to be difficult to replace them. But we feel like we couldn't be in a better situation to try to do that with the guys that we have. So it's exciting, and we're looking forward to getting them all here this summer and getting the work.
Coach Burns, you don't want to talk about specifics. I tried to get Leon to talk about specifics in terms of NIL. And if you heard what I said earlier, the $1 million budget, I don't know if it's pushing 1.5 at this point. Again, you don't want to talk specifics. Feel free to share if you do. But how much has the NIL budget changed over 1 to 3 years for Boise State basketball and the resources that you do have?
Significantly. And we've been forced to compete in that realm. And again, we couldn't do that. It's not like you just go, okay, well, we need more. And then you go down and there's a magic vault somewhere. You open it up and you get more. That's not the case. It's the people in this community. It's our donors that have been unbelievably generous. And in terms of numbers, I'm kind of like Schultz on Hogan's Heroes. I know nothing. I see nothing. So I just recruit and recruit and recruit. And when it gets to that point, I pass the baton to Mr. Rice and the administrators, and they handle that. But, you always feel like you need more. I mean, that's just competing. That's just the world we live in, and we do. But our community has given us a puncher's chance each and every year to put this roster together, and I think we do a very good job of maximizing our resources in order to do that.
And I know the roster itself is one of the reasons you guys are very excited, but the schedule as well. Going to the Maui Invitational, it had to be a nice tool in recruiting to be able to use and to be on that stage. And you've got the Wichita State game, and you've added some other games as well. Just I know with the 20-game conference schedule, that's 2 less games you have to try to go find. But what I know you talked about it last week at the BNN event, and we really appreciate you for coming there. But just what, as a final question for me, what can you update fans here on where you're at with the schedule and also what you're trying to do with those remaining games?
Well, we basically we need to get a neutral court game, one more of those. And on our formula, generally speaking, each year when we start it, just, if you're going to blueprint it, it's let's get a quality MTE with a couple quad one opportunities there, which we have this year with Maui, obviously. And then we always want to try to have a series coming to Boise and a series starting on the road. And, because of our numbers, I mean, I told the people at your event, BJ, kind of where we stand, but our 5-year average in the net is 36. So that is the 23rd best in the country. And I think that gets slept on a little bit in the midst of, you got to do this, or you got to try to get Sweet 16, you got to do that. But, our level of performance and the consistency of that performance has been very high. And so that makes us an appealing schedule for some of these teams. And so that's what we're trying to work on, is just ensure that, whatever this neutral court game is that we are working on, we want to make sure that that's a quad one opportunity. And then, we're going to try to get a series started on the road with, somebody that's going to also give us a quad one opportunity and power conference type deal. So once we do those, then it's the guarantee games, and then we're done. So then you got to play them and try to find a way to win them.
Does RJ Keene get to guard his brother, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Keene's got a little heat in his kitchen because if Howie comes in here and starts whapping threes, I mean, he's going to hit. That'd be a tough one to live down. So I know RJ's probably doing his push-ups and sit-ups as we speak, getting ready for that one. I can tell you one thing: there will be no shortage of verbal warfare going back between the brothers, because you guys know Keene. When it comes to chattering, he can do it with the best in the business.
I love that. I love that story. And that's going to be a cool game. Again, it's Montana State coming to Boise State, the Keene brothers in Extra Mile Arena. Hey, I got one more quick question about Neto in terms of, you said he's coming. You saw him yesterday. You said he's coming this weekend. Your summer conditioning program starts next week. This is a dude who grew up in Angola, a city of 10 million people. He's been all over the place in Africa. He's been all over the place in the United States playing basketball coast to coast. I don't know if he ever came to Boise on an official visit, but if he shows up this weekend, how do you acclimate him? Because he's a 19-year-old kid, probably still with big wide eyes. How do you acclimate him into Boise, Idaho over these next couple of months? So by the time he gets into school, by the time he gets on the basketball court for real, this dude feels really comfortable in his new environment.
Well, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but he has been all over the world playing this game. And so, one of the reasons he is an OKG and one of the reasons we want him in our program is, he's here in Phoenix, at Bella Vista Prep, and Phoenix is a big city. There's a lot of things to do here. And all he does is he wakes up, he goes to school, he goes to the gym, he goes to lift, he goes back to the gym, then he goes to bed. And he has a very regimented plan. A kid like him could do a lot of things, run around, have a lot of fun, but he's really focused. So he was here on a visit. He's been to Boise before. He visited the university in the fall, was at a Bronco football game. But I think getting him acclimated will be almost easier than it would be for a domestic kid because of the different places that he's had to travel. I mean, when he was, 15 years old, he was at the, left his home to go to the NBA Academy in Senegal. So he went from Angola to Senegal. He's been all over that continent, Europe and the United States, playing this game. So I think he will be very quickly acclimated, and the majority of his time will be spent either in the practice facility or in the weight room.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on, Mike. We got plenty more questions, but no time left, and I know you got stuff to get back to, but we appreciate you, and it's an exciting time, exciting roster. Hope everybody travels safe back to Boise this weekend, and that's got to be exciting for you guys as coaches back there next week to get this group back on the floor and start to put this season together. So really appreciate you joining us. Congratulations on getting it done with Aginaldo Neto, and looking forward to the summer and getting out there and seeing what this team looks like. We appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, you can just call him Neto. It's kind of like we talked about earlier. It's like Ronaldo, Pele, EJ, Prater, ball game, all the greats. They just have one name. So
love it.
Burns. Yeah, we just call him Burns. There you go. That fits in too. So
yeah, I don't know if that last one's synonymous with greatness, but I appreciate it, guys. Good.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. There he is, Mike Burns joining us. And if you're a diehard Boise State fan, heck, if you're even just a average Boise State basketball fan, it's not hard, Mike, to hear Mike Burns talk, and it can't help but get somewhat excited here for this season coming up.
Cannot wait to meet Neto. And when Dylan Andrews showed up for in Boise for summer conditioning, I know we had a little bit of a media opportunity. I hope we get that same opportunity with Neto and chat with this kid. And I know he's only 19 years old, and we know he's 19 because yesterday in Boise State's press release, they put his birthday in the press release. I thought that was kind of weird. But 19 years old, so hopefully we get to chat with him here in the next couple of weeks, or maybe certainly in August when we get closer to school. Fascinating story about how they got here, fascinating story about his background. We're going to be able to tell this story for a long, long time, BJ. I'm kind of excited about this one.
By the way, just some procedural stuff, Mike. There is a State Board of Education meeting today, and there is a line on there about Boise State University Pac-12 conference agreements. It is an action item on there for today on the State Board. I have reached out and looked into that, and my understanding, it's nothing more than a formality that approves Boise State to move forward with this. This is not expected to have any details on the media deal or on there's not expected to be any big news coming out of today's events. I know that was circulating a little on social media, that there may be a big news or big, coming out today from the State Board meeting. My understanding is that is not the case. It's just a formality. They just have to kind of rubber stamp Boise State to move forward with their plan to exit the conference and officially next year, and just to let them start doing some of the legal stuff behind that. So we will see. You never know what comes out of that, if there's any nuggets. But my understanding is this is just a very quick formality, rubber stamp Boise State, to continue to move forward with the Pac-12 conference, and more stuff will come late. But we are obviously still waiting in the next few weeks, Mike, for that media deal and the next team and all that stuff to come out.
Yeah, and it sounds like the media deal. I mean, Jeremiah at the BNN event with you guys up on the stage said he expects movement by July 1st. That's probably not going to be the 8th member. It's probably going to be more the media rights deal. But, there was supposed to be a soft deadline in February and March and April and May, and here we are in June, and we'll see how it turns out. So I know we're all a little bit impatient. But these kinds of informations will leak out and will come out officially as well. So maybe in the next month, we'll get some media rights deals and find out how much money Boise State's going to get, how much and where Boise State's going to be playing football in the very near future. Well,
Mike, appreciate you for doing this and going a little long here today, and for doing it twice this week. And I know you guys are going to have Mike Burns again on the radio side. So, we softened him up a little bit. Now you can ask the hard-hitting stuff and get some better answers this afternoon. But I know you and Bob are going to get him on, and you got another great show planned today.
Yeah, Johnny's actually back today. So he's going to be back later on this afternoon. So we're kind of fired up about that. And we'll dive back into Mike Burns and have that conversation. Still fascinated by the journey to Africa and three different guys, traveling. Berto and Coach Moats traveling all over this continent, all over this planet, chasing down a 19-year-old kid. I'm still fascinated by that journey. And then we're also going to have, here's talk about a Boise State legend. Kobe Carl's going to come on our show today. NBA finals start tonight. And Kobe Carl, now one of the all-time great scorers, one of the all-time great dudes in Boise State basketball history, is Philadelphia 76ers assistant coach. He's going to join us today to kind of break down the NBA finals, to preview the NBA finals. So Mike Burns and Kobe Carl, a couple of Boise State basketball legends.
3 to 6 today, Idaho Sports Talk, 95.3 FM, 1350 AM. You can listen online, KTIK.com. Download that KTIK app. Subscribe as I do on Apple Podcasts. And then tomorrow, 9 a.m., Jay Tuss and I, we will have number 1 on our list of the 25 most important players. And it's going to be Maddox Madsen, obviously. We haven't gotten to him yet. And I don't think was he number 1 on your list, I assume?
Number 1, baby.
All right, so not a ton of debate there, but there is plenty of debate when it comes to Maddox Madsen and how there's some fans that love him, some fans that don't. But we'll dive into Maddox Madsen, our number 1 player, tomorrow with Jay Tuss at 9 a.m. Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate you. Thank you to all of you guys for listening. Thanks to all of our subscribers. Sorry I didn't give your normal ad reads in today. We had a lot going on in a short show, but appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Listen to them today at 3, and then Jay Tuss and I will see you at 9. If any news breaks or anything, we'll obviously have you covered at BroncoNationNews.com on social media, and if need be, we'll bust back in here for a live breaking news show if it's that big of a deal. Hopefully not, but we will talk to everybody soon. Appreciate it. Bronco Nation News Live, BroncoNationNews.com.
Bronco Nation News is presented by our title sponsor, RovePaint.com. Our major sponsors, Idaho Central Credit Union, Taco Bell, Lithia Ford, the Blue and Orange Store, Jackson's, and our contributing sponsors, Signature Roofing, Western Collective, Snake River Pool and Spa, Transportation Compliance Service, Boucher Real Estate, Ridley's Family Markets, Circa Las Vegas, Lean Feast, and Timberstone Golf Course.